Oh, brother, where art thou? Obscuresville, that's where. Hey guys, MasakoX here. Now, Vegeta has been a very solitary kind of guy. For the longest time, we had no idea about Vegeta's family in detail. Yeah, we knew about his father, King Vegeta. I mean, you couldn't miss the guy during the BORDON special in particular, or most of Dragon Ball Z in general. As for his mother though, nothing. It was the same with Goku up until a few years ago, until the Dragon Ball Minus manga, where we finally saw Goku's mother, Gine, and the internet rejoiced. Mostly. Shame that Dragon Ball Minus was so divisive in the end, despite it coming from Toriyama. Check out my video in the description and up top for more. However, back in 2008, our curiosity was piqued regarding Vegeta's family in a short Jump special commemorating the 40th anniversary of Shonen Jump, a nice little video about Dragon Ball which was streamed to the world, somewhat effectively, called Yo, Son Goku and His Friends Return. At the time, we thought that this was going to be the only animated foray for Dragon Ball in the modern age, so there was much rejoicing. Again, mostly. And that being the only animation about Dragon Ball in the modern age, how wrong were we? I actually remember catching that stream when it came out, and it took forever to get to work properly. I don't think Shonen Jump and Shueisha and the like had any clue about the demand that there would be worldwide. They were not prepared. Oh yeah, and Launch was there too, despite the fact that she's marketed in the promotional material as being in her blonde form, but throughout the entire special, she's in her good innocent blue hair form. What can you say to that really, apart from marketing? The whole special and its coming to be was a compromise between Toei, Toriyama, and of course Shonen Jump, after years of badgering. Curiously enough though, many years prior to this special coming out, Toriyama had had a conversation with one of his character designers, Katsuyoshi Nakatsuru. They both spent time talking in an interview about discussing what a kind of special would look like and what they would like to see. The Dragon Ball Kanzenban have brought in new readers, and I think that as fans, it's only natural that they want to see a new Dragon Ball Z title. What would you think about making a new anime work about once a year or so? Oh, I'd like to see that. But by the final chapter, Goku had gotten pretty old, and even after that, he was the main character for the anime original Dragon Ball GT. If we're going to be making stories left and right here, maybe we should rewind time a bit and make them stories set sometime in the past. I think so too. Instead of continuing the story further and further into the future, it'd be better to do a separate episode style of story development, where you go back in time and go, this sort of enemy was here, and this sort of story. Just say, it wasn't in the original work, but this sort of story happened. Maybe that would be better. Yeah, that quote was pretty interesting, but it wasn't the most interesting part of that special. What was special was the ultimately unbelievable revelation that Vegeta had a brother, previously unknown to us. Enter Tarble. Vegeta Tarble. Vegetable. It's a perfect name. Shame the execution wasn't so perfect. Now before we go on, I have to address something that's been bugging me. Vegeta is in his 40s around age 776, right? That's the time when the Jump special takes place. And Tarble looks like he's in his teens. So either Tarble has really good genes for his late 30s, and yes, I do know that Saiyans don't really age until they're in their 80s, or there's a plot hole here. It is explained though that unlike his brother, Tarble is a low-class Saiyan, nothing like his elder brother, the Prince of all Saiyans. He was lacking in aggression, something that wouldn't do for the King of the Saiyans. That must have given King Vegeta some massive case of frustration and just, ugh, oh my god, I have this as a son. Tarble was shipped off to another planet somewhere. He was lucky. Had he been just some other low-class Saiyan, yeah, I think the fate would have been pretty bad. So that means this was all judged when Tarble was a baby, right? It's kind of hard to judge potential aggression and battle power when you're just a baby, unless you're Broly, of course, in which case you get your own movie trilogy. I apologise if it seems like I'm bashing Tarble something awful in this discussion, but I just have to admit that his presence in the Jump special is just quite perplexing. Yeah, I mean, it's cool that we get to see more of Vegeta's family appear, but his presentation and appearance in the special was just really janky. In fact, he provides no real impact other than the fact he's Vegeta's brother, and for him to introduce the monster of the special. Tarble couldn't compete against them, so he travelled to Earth where his brother was, who was much stronger, hoping that he could deal with it instead. Just so that means we could get 33 minutes of story. He brings along his wife too, for no real reason other than to get a gag out of Vegeta about being all regal and respectful, which I must admit at the time was pretty funny. And once Tarble delivered his exposition, he really didn't do anything. He kind of just blended into the background. In fact, for the second half of the story, Tarble had no real dialogue. Now, where have I heard that happening before? I know. As I've stated numerous times throughout these discussions, Akira Toriyama likes to kind of be quite of a maverick when it comes to his characters. In fact, he wrote the basic script for this special only, leaving the bulk of the work for the screenplay to series stalwart Takao Koyama. So when Toriyama was coming up with the idea for the special, he must have thought, oh, wouldn't it be cool just to have Vegeta's brother turn up and just, be there, right? That must be fun. He probably would have written the first part okay, but then as the story developed and it became clear that Tarble was a bit of a weakling, then steam would have just been completely lost for the traction that is Tarble. Especially when he is weak in comparison to the rest of the Z fighters, let alone Vegeta. Thusly, Tarble was tossed aside like a proverbial Saiyan salad, with the big bad being ended by Goku and to a lesser extent Gotenks, after much kind of frivolous, oh, I'll fight this guy, no, I'll fight this guy. It was very trivial. Tarble had been degraded from a genuinely interesting proposition to just a really rudimentary plot device. What a shame. In my opinion, if Tarble had genuinely contributed to the story, it would have been amazing. Had Tarble been stronger and keener to fight, I believe that we could have had some really good brotherly moments between him and Vegeta. It would have been compelling storytelling. A chance for Tarble to show how much he'd improved in front of his brother. It was like, hey big brother, I'm stronger just like you! Vegeta could have seen Tarble fight alongside Goten and Trunks as well as protecting his wife Gurei, and then thought, he's become quite the Saiyan. I'm proud of you, brother. That would have been a far more rewarding and endearing subplot, but no. Toriyama couldn't think of a way to properly tie in Tarble, so he just stuck to what he knew and let Goku take the win, with some hijinks along the way. Oh yeah, and Goten doing something really crazy, which he loved to do during the Buu saga. To this day, Toriyama has been very quiet about Tarble. Toriyama has not mentioned Tarble in interviews, and not even the press junkets for the movie Battle of Gods. I mean, sure, Tarble was mentioned in Battle of Gods as well as episode 30 of Dragon Ball Super, but those were cursory nods. Less than that even. Vegeta was wholly apathetic about his brother. Tarble was on a distant planet somewhere and Vegeta had no idea where he was. Nor does he seem to care. I think it would be quite easy to have Tarble in the story because Goku could pinpoint him with his instant transmission and bring him to Earth. I mean, it would be a bit difficult than usual, but it's possible. Nope. Vegeta doesn't want any of it, and so the chances of Tarble being reintroduced into the story are slim to none. It's safe to say that Tarble was a narrative failure. It was Toriyama's attempt to provide a contrasting personality for Vegeta in the shape of a brother, but when it came to its execution, it was poorly implemented. It seemed good on paper though, but when we actually saw it, it was just it was a wet blanket. It ended up being half-baked with no room for growth. But that's okay though, because I feel like Toriyama did learn from this experience and so implemented a similar plot device later on in Dragon Ball Super. By the time we got to the Resurrection F arc of Dragon Ball Super, we were all pretty jaded as a fanbase. We needed something major to get our teeth stuck into, and we got that for the most part during the Universe 6 arc. Once we had the prospect of multiversal combat, as well as Saiyans from another universe, that piqued our interest. In Universe 6's lineup, we got a Saiyan that looked very distinctly familiar from something that we'd seen before many years ago. It was a foggy memory, but yeah, I remember a Saiyan looking similar to that. What was his name though? Enter Cabba. As far as I can remember, when Cabba was introduced, he was a person of great interest to us. Judging from the first picture that we got of him, we suspected that Cabba was somebody who would be quite hoity-toity, a bit of a rich snob of a brat, thinking, ugh, oh my god, I have to fight? Ugh, I may as well for my father's sake, whatever. What we got though was the total opposite. Cabba is a timid but eager young man who is always seeking to please his new master, Vegeta, whilst being relatively low on the power scale when you compare him to Universe 7 Saiyans. Sound familiar? Uh-huh. This is basically Tarble 2.0, only with the brother element removed, as well as the weird alien wife. Immediately upon meeting Cabba, Vegeta is keen to hear everything about him, as well as the Saiyans of Universe 6, the fact that they thrived, whereas ours didn't. Saiyans never left their home world of Sadler. You could also infer, based on my History of the Saiyans video, that the original civil war that took place on planet Sadler that saw the Saiyans move off to planet Vegeta, what would later be known as, never happened. These Saiyans are also fighters for hire, but they do so for more positive and more philanthropic causes. You know, instead of serving galactic tyrants. By the time we got to Cabba and Vegeta's fight, which is a lot more than Tarble ever got, it was an exploration of power between the two Saiyans. After all is said and done, Cabba lost to Vegeta, but Vegeta bowed to Cabba and wished to visit Universe 6 to see what everything is like. He was endeared to Cabba from the get-go. He wants to meet their Saiyan race, which is a complete 180 to what he gave Tarble. He didn't really give a damn about Tarble. With Cabba though, oh, it's all up Cabba. From my point of view, it seems like Toriyama has learnt from his shortcomings with Tarble. All they had to do was just change it from being Universe 7 to another universe and it just worked. This would change Vegeta's point of view entirely. Instead of him comparing Cabba to his own conception of Saiyans, he was actually comparing Cabba to something he never knew before. It was all new. This change of mood is clearly an evolution of a previous personality flaw that was in the Jump special, but not now. And the fact that Tarble and Cabba look so similar cannot be a coincidence. But what rubs salt into the gaping wound is that Tarble is still acknowledged in the Dragon Ball Super lore. If he had been removed completely from Dragon Ball Super and Battle of Gods, then we could just say that, oh, Tarble is just a movie-only character. It would have made things far less complicated. He would have been in the realms of like Cooler and Broly and Bojack, you know, they're characters in the Dragon world but not in the actual storyline. It would have just been a lot more easier to handle, but we didn't get that. His token name drops have actually muddied the waters of the plot and made things actually a little bit awkward. Now with Cabba fully integrated into Dragon Ball Super's storyline, I doubt that we'll ever see Tarble or hear him mentioned ever again. So in terms of whether Cabba is indeed the new Tarble, I would have to say it's a resounding yes. Cabba's connection with Vegeta and how much he admires him is just completely uncanny. Toriyama obviously wants to try the Vegeta disciple angle again, and it's proving a lot more effective than it did before. Besides, Universe 6's Saiyan culture is a lot more interesting to explore. And we could even have a whole new arc dedicated to the Universe 6 adventures with Cabba, Vegeta, and Hit. There's so much things to see there, so why not have an arc there? What would Tarble have to offer? A solitary planet where he's the only Saiyan there, and a race that we already know what they look like, and as well as just not really much. And considering that Universe 7 apparently only has 28 planets in it, we don't really want to waste all the locations just yet. There's nothing new, and so it wouldn't be a stimulating plot point. Cabba's world, though, that's much more like it. So what do you guys think? Do you prefer Tarble or Cabba to being Vegeta's busboy? Would you like to see Tarble being brought back into Super more? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. Until the next one, be sure to like and subscribe. Catch you later!